dear, I don't think this is really before or after Disney. In fact, actually, when Disney hears about this, they'll probably want to produce it. Al was a very handsome young man. He had gorgeous, black, wavy hair, and he was a good-looking, well-built chap. Now, his mother doted on him. She absolutely adored him. And they lived in a little tenement in the back of a massive city, a long way from the centre of the city. It was a very poor tenement. And Al just didn't really want to work. He just liked lounging around doing nothing, and his mother didn't really mind because she adored him so much. She just loved having him in the house and cooking for him. Al was lying in bed at this particular moment, and he was about to go to into his sort of dreamy sleep when his mother shouted lunch. And he thought, oh, I'm not hungry. I'm not hungry at all. I don't want to eat anything. Now, the reason he wasn't hungry was because Al was in love. About 2 days earlier, Al had been to the city. And in the city, he'd come across this procession, the most incredible procession of all the terribly rich, frightfully wealthy, aristocratic people who ran the bloody city. And there, in this amazing procession of terribly rich, frightfully wealthy people who ran the city, was a beautiful girl. She was sitting in a car in one of the processions, and he saw her, and he knew that he had to marry her. She was so beautiful. He could not take his eyes off her. He was absolutely captivated. And from that moment on, Al was in love. And so there he was, lying in his bed, madly in love, didn't know what to do, didn't want to eat. His mother had made him lasagna, which he adored, and he didn't know what to do. But there was a tap at the door. Mother went to the door and opened the door, and standing in front of the door was a man in a dark suit, and he had a bowler hat, and he had a face like a pugilist and skin like a Seville orange. And he said, hello, my name is Mr. Sweet, and I have come to offer your son a chance to become an apprentice. Really? Said his mother, really? Well, how marvellous. Oh, my goodness. Oh, just what he needs, a job. Marvellous, said Mr. Sweet. And so he came into the house, and Al by now was sitting on top of the stairs listening to what Mr. Sweet said about all the money he could earn if he was a very good apprentice. He thought, now if I had lots of money, I might just be able to marry a princess. What a good idea. So he said to his mother, okay, I'll go with him. Why not? So he packed a little bag, and Mr. Sweet and Al flew to a distant land, very distant land, and they stayed in the Death Star Hotel. Very exciting. It does exist. Death Star Hotel. And the next morning, they got up very early, and Mr. Sweet, with his bowler hat on, his dark suit, took Al, who was by then suitably dressed, I suppose, down to the bank. And it was the Bank of Hopes, Aspirations and Eternal Credit. You probably know very well it's the HSBC. And there he said, right, we go in and we have to go down to the vault. Okay, we're going down to the vault, right. So they walked down these long, dark passages, long, dark passages with lots of stairs and steps and dark, no lights, dark and very dark, and on down these long, dark passages until they came to a huge door, huge, massive, bigger than that one, with a big wheel on it. And Mr. Sweet said, right, he said, I want you to open that door, and all you have to do is to put your hand up on this plate here, and the door will open. Really, said Al? Really? Yes, and Mr. Sweet said, now when you've opened the door and you go into the vault, I want you to go to the left-hand side where there is a deposit box, not one that's been raided, okay, a deposit box. And in the deposit box, you will be able, I'll tell you how to open the deposit box, and in it you must bring the thing that's in it to me. Al thought, okay, right, all right, yeah, all right. So he puts his hand up on the little pad here, and the wheel starts to turn. You know how these big wheels turn, because they're sort of... Anyway, the wheel turns and the door opens. Well, I was quite amazed. Mr. Sweet does not come in. Oh, no. He's standing outside the vault. And he says, go on, Al, go in, find the deposit box, and it's got ALDIN written on it. And if you put your date of birth, in the keypad, it will open. And then you bring me the thing that's in the deposit. Really? Said Al, really? How interesting. Why can't you come into the vault? I mean, you want me to give you something that appears to be in a box that only I can open? Well, that sounds a bit strange to me. So he's shouting back to Mr. Sweet. Mr. Sweet's going, no, get on with it. Come on, get down into that vault now. And Al says, well, actually, I'm not sure that, I think it's mine, isn't it? I mean, I'm the only one who can open it. It must belong to me. Now says, Mr. Sweet says, no, it doesn't belong to you at all. It belongs to me, and I want you to get it. And Al's inside this vault, and he's thinking, there's something a bit fishy going on here. Mind, at the time, Mr. Sweet is standing outside this vault, and he is beginning to look very worried. He's a very worried man. And he's kind of looking about him the whole time and thinking, and his eyes are going from left to right, and he's going, oh my God, because I need to get that thing that's in the vault, and if I don't get that thing that's in the vault, maybe these two hands will come shooting out of the wall and strangle me, and I'll die. I need to get that thing that's in the vault. And he looks very worried. Meanwhile, Al is down in the vault, and he's got the safe deposit box open. And he puts his hand into the safe deposit box. And there's only one thing in there. And it's about this big. And it's about that big. And it's thin. And he takes it out. And he looks at it. He thinks, that's an odd thing. What's that? And Mr. Sweet shouts to him and says, come on, bring it out to me, give it to me. And Al goes, well, I don't know if I really want to, actually. No, I think I'll just hang on to this. Suddenly, he hears a bang, and Mr. Sweet, with his bird hat on his dark suit, has closed. He has closed the vault door, and he's spun the wheel. And Al is trapped in the vault. He's trapped in the vault. There are no lights. Remember, I told you it's very dark and no lights. But he's got a thing in his hand. He's like, oh my God, there's no lights. And he can't even hear that Mr. Sweet has left, because you can't hear anything in a vault, the safe deposit box vault, because the walls have got 3 foot of concrete in it. Is it 3 foot of concrete or 2 foot 6? Anyway, he's standing there and he's going, oh my God. And he looks at this thing, and then he runs his finger along the side of the thing, and it's kind of small, and suddenly it flips open. It flips open, and he goes, and a disembodied voice. Disembodied voice comes out and says, would you like a meeting or just some advice? He nearly drops it on the floor. He's absolutely... Anyway, he doesn't drop it on the floor, and he goes, I'd really like a bit of advice, please. Fine. Well, how the hell do I get out of here? Oh, that's very easy, says the disembodied voice. Just put your hand on the keypad and the door will open. Oh, thinks, why didn't I think about that? So he closes the thing, puts it in his pocket, puts his hand on the keypad, and magically the door opens and he's out of the vault. And he starts to make his way back up the passages. Well, he thinks, he gets out of the bank. He's sweating a bit by this time, by the way. Gets out of the bank and he opens up the device again. He goes, hello, would you like a meeting or would you just like some advice? Actually, I want to know how I get home. Oh, that's very easy, says the disembodied voice. You'll find your plane tickets at the airport, and here's some money. A roll of money arrives in his hand. My God, he says. My God, this is amazing. So he closes the device, puts it in his pocket. He gets to the airport, he gets a taxi, gets to the airport, gets home to Mum. Whew, my God, that was an adventure. He gets up into his room. Whew, he's leaning on his bed going, my God, that was a bit scary. And he thinks, I'll just open the... So he gets this little device out and he flicks it open, and the voice says, hello, would you like a meeting or do you just want some advice? A meeting, please, says Al. Whew. Into the room steps a very good-looking, grey-haired, little bearded man in a white suit with blue eyes and a gorgeous laugh, twinkling blue eyes. And he says, and how can I help you? So Al tells him the story of the princess and how he got taken away by Mr. Sweet and how he needs to make lots and lots of money because he wants to marry the princess. And that's what he really wants to do with his life. So very easy, he said. Right, he said, now to start with, what you need to do is you need to go to the races. So he gives him a race card, and every single card is marked with the first, second and third. He said, here's a roll of money. Gives him a roll of money. He says, you put that money on an accumulator on every single one of those horses, and then come home and tell me all about it. That's exactly what Al did. And when he got home, he calls up and he says, would you like a meeting or just some advice? Well, Al says, I think we need another meeting, actually. I mean, this is so cool. So, into the room, our beautiful debonair, grey-haired, grey-bearded, twinkling blue eyes man in his white suit appears. Al says, that was amazing. How do you do that? It's just incredible. Look at all this money. I've just made a fortune. Right. Now, he says, tonight, I'm going to give you a ticket to go to a concert. And you're going to go to this concert. And after the concert, you're going to go behind the scenes and you're going to talk to the man who's organised this concert and played all this music, and you're going to offer to record it for him. Really? Am I? How exciting. That's completely marvellous. And he did exactly that. He followed the instructions that this man had given him. But by now, of course, they'd got on first name terms. And he knew that this man's name was Rich. So off he went to the concert, and he offered to record the music, and my goodness, it sold millions. Absolutely fantastic. So Al's now just beginning to get a bit of a, he's getting got some money under his bed. So anyway, a couple of days later, he gets this device, he opens it up and he flicks it and he says, the disembodied voice goes, would you like a meeting or just some advice? I think we need to have a meeting, says Al. Into the room. Our lovely, grey-haired, white-suited gentleman called Rich. Al says, right. He says, what do I do now? Well, he said, it's very simple. What you need to do now is to buy an airline. Really? Well, he said, you've got the money. And here are the papers, and here's the airline. Oh, gosh, says Al. That's terrific. And he said, here's your manager. I'll give you his name and address. He's really, really good. Wow, says Al. Okay. And he said, what am I going to call this airline? Says Rich. Virgin's a good name. Okay, says Al. Right. And he does that very thing. A couple of days later, he's got himself sorted out. There's a knock at the door. There is a knock at the door. And it's Mr. Evil Sweet. Al looks out and he sees him. He sees the bowler hat. So he runs out of the house. He goes out the back door. These tenements, they always have back walls and back doors and back passages. And he's gone. By the time his mother's opened the door to, we know, Mr. Evil Sweet, Al has gone. When he gets a bit far away, opens the device and he goes, hey. The disembodied voice goes, hello, would you like a meeting or just some advice? Al says, I need some advice. Oh, said the disembodied voice, I know what you're talking about. He is a bit of a problem. I've been having a problem with him for years. He said, and just in case he gets even more of a problem than he is at the moment, here are some numbers. Write these numbers down, because if he ever steals this device, all you've got to do is put these numbers in, and it completely decode the device. Okay? Great, says Al. That's a good thing to have. Something, a bit of a backup. And he said, here's another device, which is exactly like the one that you're talking to me on, but all you've got to do is recode it. All right? So if anything happens, you know what to do. Right, says Al. Okay, he said, that's good. We got that out of the way. What do I do next? Oh, he said, it's really simple. We've got to get you to the princess, haven't we? Well, he said, the only way you can get yourself into the princess's domain is to start up a charity. Maybe run a national lottery as well, but I suggest the charity first. Plough lots of money into a charity. Just pick something, dogs or cats or something. Charity, Excellent, thank you, says Al, and he does exactly that. And, of course, what is amazing is that when he starts up this charity, gosh, what happens? He gets invited to the palace and meets the princess. Well, of course, the princess takes one look at Al, and he is rather gorgeous. He's very handsome. He's tall and dark and Very good looking. And by now, of course, he's pretty suave and he's got himself an airline and a few other things tucked under his belt, you know. And the princess does fall in love with him. But the other thing that was really worrying Al was Mr. Evil Sweet. So he opens the device again. And the disembodied voice goes, would you like a meeting or just some advice? I think we just need to have some advice here, he says. What am I going to do about me tenement and me mum and I and living in this part of London, city? And so what are we going to do? Says the disembodied voice of Rich. He says, I think it'd be a really good idea if you buy a nice big house. Here are the details of the nice big house you need to buy. Well, that's a good idea, says Al. And he said, when you bought the nice big house, I think you ought to look for an island as well. Okay, so they buy the nice big house. But of course, what he really wants to do is marry the princess. And now he's met the princess, and he's got a few things under his belt. Bit of an airline, bit of an island, a few charities. He's doing quite well, set up a national lottery. And he does marry the princess. And it's the most wonderful wedding. They get flown by their own airline to the island. And they have an enormous party on the island. And Mum's still there cooking her lasagna and looking frightfully pleased with herself. And everything is completely wonderful and they're incredibly happy. How many more minutes have I got? Oh, I'm running. Okay. And they're incredibly happy and they're completely in love and it's completely wonderful. Anyway, they're back in their city home, the big house in the city, and Al has just had to go out for a meeting. Very important meeting because, of course, he's got so many business affairs. And as he's coming back from his meeting, he realises that that something is approaching his house. And he can feel this evil guy. So he starts to run. And as he gets closer and closer to the house, he realises that the evil Mr. Sweet with a bowler hat is leaving his house. Now what he's done is he's gone to the house and he's knocked on the door and the princess has answered and he said, new phones for old. Oh, she said, yeah, we've got an old phone here. She takes it out from behind the large plant pot and she gives it to him. Here's a new one, he says. And off he goes. Well, Al has seen him. Al knows he's there. So Al comes screaming back in. Excuse me, I'm going to cough. And I need some water. Sorry. It's all those Pims. Al comes back in. He sees Mr. Sweet leaving, and he knows what's happened. He knows that Mr. Sweet has taken the device. And so he quickly pulls out the spare one, remember? And he punches in the new codes. Mr. Sweet gets round the corner. He opens the device. And two hands come from nowhere and strangle him and kill him.